Well, that was probably one of the most hopeful, uplifting conversations. And I just want to share, just not being able again to tend to all of the comments and questions, which we'll get to, just such a resoundingly positive response coming from our audience members, sharing how people are feeling better already, how helpful they have felt, that the tips that Meredith had to offer are, that people are really getting a lot out of this experience. So I'm so thankful and glad for that. We are going to transition now to our last and final panel for the day. At the end of this, Catherine will rejoin with me and we'll do a final farewell. I have to say, well, first of all, we've been graced with some profound speakers and experts in the field of maternal mental health. This last panel is very near and dear to my heart. As I started by sharing my own personal experience, one of the reasons why I got into this work is because I experienced severe postpartum depression and anxiety after my son was born. 13 years ago, it was a while ago, but yet it's still very much a part of my identity. And it, in so many ways, and primarily in the way that it became my life's work. And so I'm very, very pleased to introduce to you our final and third panel, the stories of PMAD survivors and the skills that got them through. And I just want to ask our panelists, I see Hetty and Jamie, if you want to go ahead and bring yourself onto the screen, that'd be great. These women are going to be some of the strongest women that you're going to hear from today. These are women that have experienced perinatal mood and anxiety disorder and have come forward and shared their stories with so many people to make a difference, to help defeat the stigma that surrounds perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, to provide education, and to inspire women who are struggling to come forward and get help. And so we are so privileged and pleased to have these ladies here with us today. And really what we're going to hear about is their own journey through a PMAD and some of the things that help them get to the other side. We have 4 panelists. I see 2 have joined us. We have Jamie Silver and Hetty McNamara. And so as we wait for hopefully, oh, there's Evie. Evie's joining us now too. I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. And this is a question that's really goes out to all of you. So whoever wants to go first, please feel free to chime in. Hi, Evie. So nice to have you joining us. We're just doing kind of an overview of this panel, and I'm just launching in with the first question. So whoever wants to take it first, if you could please walk our viewers through your own personal PMAD journey. Whoever wants to take that first.
I can go ahead. Okay. Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, cool. I'd say my journey, really, as soon as I had my baby, I almost felt this low. Like as soon as he came out, I was holding him and I was all like happy. And then all of a sudden it was like, vroom, my mood just went down. I had horrible anxiety. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. It got to the point where I was like, this is the biggest mistake I've made of my entire life. Like I've always been such a happy, bubbly person. And I couldn't tap into any of that. And so it got to the point where I was contemplating just escaping or moving away. I was like, I can't deal with this reality. I didn't want to accept it. And so when my OBGYN called me to schedule the 6-week appointment, it was when I mustered the courage to say, I'm not well. And, you know, she mentioned the Motherhood Center. And I looked into it and I said, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to confront that I need this level of help. I was just like, oh no, I don't need like a day program where I'm there 9 to 5. Like, I'm sure I could just find a therapist online. And I did therapy one session and it was like, the lady was just like, wah, wah. I couldn't even understand what she was saying. My mind was just totally out of it. And, you know, I talked to my parents about it. And I think with people of color, sometimes there's a stigma with, you know, going to get help with mental things or taking medications and things like that. So they just kept telling me, you're fine, you're fine. And I just knew I was not fine. And if this was fine, I didn't want it. I was like, I got to get better. This is not me. So I enrolled in the day program, and I have to say, that was the first day within a month that I felt like this glimpse of happiness or just hope. I remember coming home and like stroking my husband's hair and being able to just get a relief for just a second. It was like, oh, okay, I'm here and I'm present. And I spent 5 weeks. I thought like, okay, I'll do 2 weeks, in the day program. But no, I was there for 5 weeks. And frankly, I probably should have been there probably a little bit longer. I did struggle a bit once I left. But I have to say, through it all, I now I'm experiencing the joys of motherhood that I had heard about this whole time and kind of misconstrued my expectations really in the beginning. And I'm just a better person overall too. So yeah, it's my journey.
Well, Hedy, I want to just applaud you for your strength and courage to share your story. It takes a lot of strength and courage to come forward and admit that we don't love every aspect of being a mother. In fact, I don't know any single woman on this planet who does. And so to be able to give women permission to not love every minute of this and actually to find a lot of it very painful is super inspiring. And you guys could see all the chats and conversation going on, just people so thankful, feeling better and relieved to hear other people's stories and journeys, and to find hope in that. So thank you for your bravery. And I just want to welcome Abby and Evie, who both joined us as well. And just so you guys are aware, we were just starting with the first question, just asking the rest of you if you want to describe your PMAD journey in no particular order, whoever would like to go next.
Sure, I can go
I'll
next.
go. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jamie. It's fine.
Okay, sounds good. So I think the really the hardest part of telling my story is kind of wondering where it starts. I wasn't one of those women that loved pregnancy. I'm finding a lot of women don't. There was a lot that I was going through during that period of time. And I think there were a lot of triggers there that kind of should have kind of warned me that something was going to happen. I was what my therapist called a perfect candidate for a PMAD. Yay me. But I didn't even know what it meant. And that's why it's so important to talk about these things, because even when she told me that, I kind of dismissed it as, being a little bit sad and then getting through it. And that's absolutely not what it was. So my recollection of really the story beginning is waking up in the hospital the morning after my son Dayton was born and not knowing where he was. I mean, that was really how everything started. My motherhood experience started with a maternal instinct that I needed to get to the baby, but not knowing where he was. And from there, I had a lot of traumatic things happen to me within the hospital. And as a consequence of that, there was no sleep. I wasn't really eating. And time was just kind of going by where I wasn't getting the health and the help that I needed yet. When I came home from the hospital and on the way home from the hospital, one thing that I remember really distinctly is hearing a ringing in my ears. It sounded real and it sounded like a siren. And being in New York City, we hear sirens a lot, but I don't think that this was anything happening outside. I think this was in my head, and the siren would continue to go off for a long time. The other thing about being at home was I remember saying to my friends and family, I want to go back to the hospital. And I did have some physical medical complications. But I think the reason I wanted to go back is because I was reaching for this lifeline that Paige refers to a lot in the program and in the work that we do. So I wanted to reach for that. And everyone told me it will be okay. You need to sleep, you need to rest. But meanwhile, there was no food, there was no sleep. I was kind of just passing through the hours, kind of a shell of myself. And the baby felt like something that I had to do, something that I knew I needed to take care of, but there wasn't a real connection with the baby other than this is something I have to do and it's permanent. And that permanence was really terrifying to me, that most of the decisions I've made in my life I can reverse, and this was one that I just wasn't going to be able to. So this kind of sadness and darkness was taking over to the point that I did end up calling my therapist. And I just remember being in my room, laid across the bed, the shades were down, it was really dark in the room, and I was kind of just going on and on about how I was feeling. And she said to me, "You need to go to the Motherhood Center. You need to go tomorrow. And if you don't go, I fear you're not going to make it." And that kind of had a lot of meaning, different meanings. I wasn't quite sure what that was going to mean as my story progresses, but so I made that phone call, and I was very resistant to going into a day program and to getting treatment. And when I walked in there, I just fought. I fought really hard to not be there, because this just was not the place for me. I was not the type of person that would need to get this kind of help. And I wanted a timetable, you know, kind of like Hetty said, I expected to be there for a little bit. I ended up there for close to 8 weeks, and certainly not the way I thought I was going to be spending my maternity leave. And everything was a fight. And I think, you know, one of the big turning points was one day we were out for a walk, my husband, my son, and I, and they went into the deli to get something. And I was standing outside, and I was looking at the traffic, and I just really wanted it to stop right then. And I sent a terrifying text to my mom that said, "The cars, you know, that's how I would do it." And it was just a place I had never been, a darkness I had never felt, and it was going to take a lot of time, medicine, and sleep to really get through it. And so I did go into that day program and started to get the help that I needed. But it was definitely the scariest, darkest experience I've ever had in my life.
Jamie, thanks for sharing that incredibly moving story. And again, it just like, as you all are sharing, my arm hairs are standing up on end. And with every story I hear, it never ceases to have the same impact of just the sheer admiration that I have for all of you and others that are able to admit that something's wrong, and to seek support and treatment, and the hopefulness, right? And we're going to continue on this panel to talk about how treatment really is effective and works, and to be in treatment and to get the support that we need to feel better and make it to the other side, that there's hope to get there. And yeah, I'm continue to be blown away by everybody's strength. And Evie, I'm going to move to you now. You want to share your journey with us?
Yes, yes, of course. I would love to, because I feel like a disservice is done to women in general, whether it's by women before or the general medical community. I think part of the service.
Evie, you're freezing a little bit on your screen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now you're good.
Okay. I don't know what you heard last, but I feel like there's a general disservice done to women when you're pregnant, whether by women before you that have been pregnant, mothers, or the medical community at large. Talking about PMAD should be part of your routine when you go through pregnancy. At least it should be planted in your ears, so that you're not just being told, "Oh, motherhood is just so wonderful." Nobody tells you about the leaky breast. Nobody tells you about the sleepless nights, how it will affect you, the mental aspect of it, the strain of it, that you go from this person who can just get up and go take a cheap trip to Jamaica on a weekend, to you can't. Like all the stuff that you know in your head intellectually, but you don't really factor in emotionally, that you have to let go of this other self that you were for whatever amount of years you are, and that you're now this other person who has to share all of you with this little being that really, really needs you. I feel like that should be part of the process. Now, in my case, I was happy up until I got my diagnosis. My pregnancy was not traumatic up until I was told that my daughter would be born with Down syndrome. And what I did was not process that. What I did was deny. I shut down. I went into total work mode, my regular job, and I was on off Broadway. I was dancing, singing, vocal coaching, acting, going to my regular job, going to church. I mean, just pretty much doing everything else but researching what Down syndrome was about, how it would, change the trajectory of our lives outside of being new parents, but being parents of a child with special needs. And I really sunk down into my faith, and I prayed and I casted and I binded and I prayed for healing. And then my daughter decided to make her debut on the A train. And I walked myself from the train to the clinic. I got thrown in the back of the ambulance, emergency C-section later. Here she was. And I remember the doctor saying to me, you do know your daughter has trisomy 21. And that was the end of my life. Like, that was the end of it. I disconnected. I just remember going into the bathroom stall, and I cried like my life was done. I couldn't eat. By the time I came home, at least I think if I had come home with the baby, maybe I would feel a little better.
You froze again, Evie. In the middle of this amazing story. Is there maybe another part of the house that has better reception?
Self, I started thinking of like she said about the cars, I would be looking at a bus coming and thinking, how fast is it going? And can I throw myself in front of it? I would look at trains and go to the end of it to where nobody was, so nobody would rescue me if I wanted to jump. I would read up on articles of how many floors you had to be on to jump and not survive. Like, I was suicidal. By the time somebody told my husband about it, and he started, he was already out of it about it, because I was not my normal self. Like Hetty said, I'm very bubbly person. You're very bubbly person. I'm very optimistic. I mean, I'm always into something. I'm busy. I have a social life. I'm out there. And this was totally not me. And my husband was totally not used to it. But also my husband's totally used to me being so strong. So it threw him off to see me so weak. It threw me off to see me in that condition. I wasn't used to seeing myself that way. But because of that, I was like, I'm fine. I got this. I handle this. What is this? I can do this. And then my husband said, look, I cannot lose you. We are in this together. And he found out about the Motherhood Center, and he told me I had to go. He gave me a choice of either going to the Motherhood Center or he was going to call 911 and have me sent to Bellevue, which was not a good idea. Like, I'm too cute for Bellevue, honey. No, way too cute for that. I like free lunches. I like mindfulness and all the artwork. I can't do Bellevue. So I decided to go to Bellevue, and like Jamie said, I concur. It was a fight all the way. I was kicking and screaming all the way there. And for the first maybe 3 weeks, I was like, y'all can tell your story. It's fine. I'm here for you. Yeah, yeah. I just was not interested. And I think part of that was two things. Like Hetty said, when you're African American or you're a person of color, sharing your business is not a thing we do. It's Jesus and the rug. You put on the rug and you let Jesus handle it. That whole sharing business is just not part of the community outreach program. Okay, it's Jesus and the rug. And then secondly, I didn't feel like I related to the other women. To me, I was like, oh yeah, why, your child is regular. Okay, I don't want to hear about your kid. So in my head, it's like I'm not the same. I'm not in the same category of motherhood as you. I got a child with special needs. Yay, your kid is gonna walk. Your kid is gonna talk. Your kid is gonna do all this stuff. I got to think about all the 4,000 therapists rolling through my house, which felt like an invasion to me. And I've got to deal with service coordinators and the, New York State Health Department. You don't have any of those things. So yeah, in my head, I was just so reluctant to share that. I was also embarrassed or reluctant to share that my kid had Down syndrome and that I knew ahead of time because of the types of questions people were asking me beforehand. Oh, you knew and you decided to have a kid with Down syndrome? So there was that stigma to deal with. So being at the Motherhood Center those first couple of weeks, I just didn't feel like I was part of that conversation. I didn't feel like they could address my particular concerns. But after a while, you realize that whether you make, $500,000 a year and you live on the Upper West Side, or you live in the Bronx, or whether you're black, white, skinny, tall, short, whatever, whether your kid is special need or whether your kid is exceptional or neurotypical, it's the same boat. You're a mom with a child that needs you, and emotionally or mentally, you're not really prepared. And it puts us all on the same level. And when I came to that realization, it kind of helped me be able to open up and realize that that's a shared experience. Outside of my little add-on is a shared experience, because when Anushka finally came home, for a while I just felt like, when is her mother coming to pick her up? Because this babysitting is just extended. And it just felt like that for a while. Like, whose kid is this? Why are they in my house? Why am I buying all this stuff for them? I want to buy my shoes. What's going on here? Come get your kid. That was my feeling for a long time. Um, but now, being at the Motherhood Center, I stayed there for 6 weeks. Initially got there and couldn't wait to leave, and then when it was time to leave, I didn't want to leave. um, it was so helpful to be there. It was so helpful to be given tools. It was so helpful to hear that and to see that I wasn't alone. It wasn't a peculiar thing to just make. Um, and it was good to surrender all the preconceived notions of being a mother and really getting real hands-on tools. And so fast forward later, that's my best bud, my kid. We're we're doing it, getting a hang of all the therapies and all the stuff. Everybody knows me as the crazy mother. You mess with my kid, you about to be so. I'm in a much better place. I cannot say and will never be able to say that I will love Down syndrome. I love my kid, but I don't love Down syndrome, never will. But as far as that girl is concerned, I will wake up and show up for her every blessed day. I will fight for her. I can never say I will never regret the child I hoped I would have. Um, but when it comes to that girl, she has a warrior and an advocate in me all the time. It's a journey, but for all of us, it's a journey. For me, I know upfront what my challenges are. And for you, you don't know what your challenges will be in the future. But it is important to have support. And I'm grateful for my husband, my mother-in-law, and my friends that saw the star she was before I could. And they helped me see it. And the motherhood helped me know I could be the best mom that Anushka needs to have. So I'm grateful for the Motherhood Center. And lastly, because I can carry on, y'all, somebody needs to mute me. It is important to have support. It is important to speak to someone. And it is important to understand that you're not alone. This is a shared experience, and nobody can fight it by themselves. You need to have that support. You need to reach out and know that that darkness, it will not last forever. It's a temporary thing. Eventually, the light will come in slowly but surely, but you have to be open to the idea of letting that light in. And yep, that's it.
Evie, you are nothing short of an inspiration. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and being so open and honest. And this goes for all of you. And I'm getting all kinds of comments of people that are listening, just praising you for your honesty and openness. You brought tears to my eyes. And I think you probably did the same to a lot of people listening. And I just want to touch on a few things that you mentioned. That thing that happened to you 3 weeks in was radical acceptance, which you all are intimately familiar with, right? You accepted the fact that motherhood is a common denominator, right? Motherhood is something that we all share in common, and it doesn't matter what we look like or where we came from. It is a shared experience, and I think that is such a critical point. And then I just have to thank you for using my favorite S word, surrender. Just hearing it makes me feel calm and soothing, and I it's one of the words that we try to use a lot at the Motherhood Center. Surrender to motherhood, and that is a feat. Abby, I want to turn over to you and say hello. Thanks for joining us, and tell us a little bit about your story.
Sorry for the little delay. I'm camped out at my parents' house. But yeah, I came to the Motherhood Center while I was pregnant. I guess my story begins with not knowing that this could happen during pregnancy. I consider myself fairly aware of, postpartum and the postpartum experience. I knew that was a possibility, and similar to what Jamie said, I was sort of told I was a candidate for it. What I wasn't aware about was that it could hit during pregnancy. I, had experiences with anxiety in the past. And then, my first trimester it went pretty well. And when the second trimester hit, I felt broken all of a sudden. I felt, I'm someone who's pretty type A. I had, my life sort of set up around me, and I felt like personally I was crumbling, and I felt like I was failing as a mom before I even had the baby. I felt like I was doing a disservice to my baby and was doing everything wrong as a pregnant person. So how could I be expected to mother, when the baby was out of utero? I spiraled really quickly, which is also something I don't think had realized. My past experiences with anxiety had sort of been a slow burn. This was sort of like I woke up one day and I went from being able to, take runs and work a high stress job to not being able to really brush my teeth. And that, ramp up, in addition to the actual anxiety I was feeling, was terrifying. It was scary how quickly felt like I was going downhill. So my story, actually, I came to the Motherhood Center, and I came to one day at the Motherhood Center. And after one day there, I feel like we all have a similar sort of moment, the worst moment that we realized it was happening. And I remember my first day at the Motherhood Center, coming home back to my apartment in Brooklyn in a car, because I couldn't take the train at this point. I couldn't handle the crowds. I couldn't handle, my whole thing is sort of a contamination OCD. I couldn't handle the dirt, the mess, the sneezes, the people. And I was in the car coming home, lying in the back seat, and looked out over the bridge and just realized how easy it would be to just jump off a bridge. I didn't want to jump off a bridge, but I had never processed how simple it would be, I feel, to die. And that was the moment that I really realized I needed more help than I could have at the Motherhood Center. And I went to NYU to the psych ward for 2 weeks, where I felt, you know, an extra level of protection really from myself at that point, which, you know, I have a very supportive family and partner and everything, but I needed, you know, a fully safe space to spend all my time. And then once that was, my time in the psych ward was over, I came to the Motherhood Center, and I was thinking about it yesterday, and I was trying to remember how long I was at the Motherhood Center, and time becomes so, I mean, we're in a time right now with the pandemic where time becomes so distorted. I felt a similar sense, for totally different reasons, of like distorted time. I was like, was I there for 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years? It felt like this strange window of time. I figured it out. I was there for like 5.5 weeks. And I left, and I still continued to work. And I think one thing that happened for me was I was also really told, you know, you had this during pregnancy, you're really high risk for postpartum. And I had sort of an entire system in place for when it hit postpartum. And I had my baby after a really, you know, long, hard delivery and emergency C-section. And the minute he got out of me, I felt like myself again, which is surprising because you wouldn't typically feel like yourself after not sleeping for 3 days and having major surgery, but I did. And, you know, I still have ebbs and flows of the anxiety, but yeah, it was, I think my biggest piece was it was so shocking to me it happened during pregnancy.
Yeah. That you raised such an important point, Abby, that we don't talk enough about. And Evie, you started with this, and I know you all can contend. We don't talk enough about any of this enough. We don't talk about how prevalent PMADs are and how likely women, especially with a history of mental illness, are to develop a PMAD. But you know, you bring up something critical, Abby. 50% of all PMADs develop during pregnancy. And no, not a lot of people know that, right? We think of it as postpartum depression, that these things develop in the postpartum, but 50% of them develop during pregnancy. And you will forever be on my mind. I channel you frequently when I run groups in the day program. I don't know if you remember, but one day that I was running a group that you were in, you referred to the blips and dips of getting better. And so I use it all the time because it's something that's so indicative of recovery from a PMAD. We want it to be a straight line up. We want to feel better like this. But in quoting the famous Abby Spector, there are blips and dips, right? Like it's a jagged line to get better. And for all of you that are listening, if that is your experience, if that was your experience, know that that is common and normal. That we have one good day, 2 bad days, we go up and down, and that's part of feeling better. So I want to ask you all, you know, first of all, we had over 800 people register for this event. So that if that doesn't speak to the magnitude of people out there that want to learn more about this, what do you want these people to know, those that are with us, those that will watch this when it's available to watch post today's event? What do you want women to know that might be experiencing a PMAD right now?
I think one of the most important things to know is that this is a disease. It's a disease, and you can't make it into anything other than that. And I think part of the stigma with this is, you know, mental health issues, and people don't understand what this is. But the way I liken it is, you know, if you found out that a friend was unfortunately diagnosed with cancer, you wouldn't say, you'll be okay. You know, whatever, it's a few weeks and you'll be fine. You wouldn't say that to that person. And I think it's the same thing with a PMAD. They're not just going to be okay. There's going to have to be a treatment, a serious treatment plan that's put into place to help these women get better. And we need to really look at it that way, and stop kind of just dismissing this and not being educated about what it really is.
Excellent advice, Jamie. What about others? What do you want new and expecting moms that are struggling to know? Yeah, Evie.
So, what annoyed me the most, I think, and what probably brought a lot of issues between myself and my husband was the hurry up and get well attitude that people had, which is, I think, what Jamie is trying to say is that to get to that place organically, naturally, and with the help that I was getting. People expected me to instantly snap out of it and snap back to. And the thing about it is somebody like me, I don't think I've gotten back to where I used to be pre-pregnancy. And I'm okay with that because I think that PMAD changed me. Having a baby changed me. And it should be okay. But that attitude of wanting people to get back quick to what they used to do was very annoying. And I want to beg everyone out there that's going through PMAD, take your time to get well. Like Jamie said, if somebody had cancer, you can say, "Oh yeah, come on now, let's go, let's get it together." This is a mental health issue. This is not just, it's not just a physical thing, even though for me, I lost 65 pounds within like a month and a half. Obviously, I put it back on. But but take your time. Take your time. Don't let anybody rush you into, because that's what causes anxiety. That's what causes a lot of added on issues. When people feel like they need to hurry up, get well, get back to all the stuff they used to do. No, you take your time and you get better. Don't let anybody rush you into it, and don't rush yourself into it. It takes a long time to get to that place of where you feel like you're hopeless. It's going to take you either an equal amount of time or even more time to get to a place where you accept where you are, you accept your experiences, and you let that grow you and not stagnate you. So that's very important. If you do have faith, apply it. If you have a house of God, a person you can speak to, use those people and strengthen yourself and surround yourself by people who support your mental health journey. Listen, we delete and block people on Facebook all the time. We could do that in real life. If there's somebody around you that's not supporting your journey, that is not mentally good for you, that's a strain, I don't care if it's your mama, you got to put her on hold and get yourself to where you need to be so that you could be a good and adequate person for yourself first. Then you can be a good mother and a good wife and a good everything else. But you got to take care of you. You are the root. If the root is no good, the branches are no good, the leaves are no good, the root has to be okay. So make sure you water yourself, you nurture yourself, and you take the time to go through your journey and let it unfold organically and let it unfold naturally. That's pretty much it for me.
Well said. And as you all have heard us say many times at the Motherhood Center, you got to put your mask on first, right? When you're flying, so that you can take better care of the child.
I guess one thing for me is realizing that you can be, I mean, something we said a lot there is like and statements. You can be lucky and have a PMAD. You can have a great relationship and have a PMAD. You can have, I kept feeling when I was in sort of the thick of it, this added weight of like, I don't deserve to have a PMAD. I have what I've always wanted. So it's like, I'm too lucky to have a PMAD, and it's okay to accept that, you can have X, Y, and Z and still have a PMAD. And to be angry about it. Be like, really pissed that you got a PMAD. And then the last thing, I mean, that I've been thinking about a lot lately is, you know, I have, when throughout my pregnancy, sort of my thing, we all had a thing, my thing was sort of contamination OCD and hypochondria. So you can imagine that in a time like this, you know, would be a time that people remember that. I've had people come out of the woodwork, sort of calling me, reaching out, being like, are you okay? How are you handling this? Something that I've really realized is how, and this sort of touches on Jamie's point about it being a mental illness, it's not rational. Anxiety doesn't always make sense, because I'm not freaking out right now. If there's ever a time someone with contamination OCD should be having the time of their life, like, you know, really relishing, really feeling their contamination OCD, it's now. And I'm kind of just my normal self. Whereas, you know, some of my anxieties are so rare, so outlandish. And I think that's really shined a light on also how much of like a mental illness it is that doesn't make sense. It's not proportional, it's not linear. If you're type A and a control freak like me who likes to see point A go to point B to go to point C, that's not how this works. And that's really, that's a pill to swallow. I don't want to swear, but I was about to.
I'd say in closing, I hope that I can encourage women to understand that why wouldn't you be going through a hard time right now? Instead of why me, because I spent so much time in why me, and I was trying to analyze. I was like, oh, because I did this, because I did that. And I'm like, why wouldn't you? Like you created or are creating a human being, the most complex thing on earth. Then you're going to deliver or just deliver that human being. And then if you use it or not, you're going to create nourishment for that human being. It's like the only other thing that can do that is God. So it's like you are a human and you did this enormous thing that has caused like chemical, emotional, mental, and physical changes. And yeah, you're going to be down, you're going to be depressed, you're a new, you know, you now have this new responsibility. And yeah, you're going to be anxious, of course, and you're going to get better. You're going to realize that this is your new normal and you're going to fit into it. So I hope that's a mentality that you can try to tap into, is why wouldn't you have the hardest time? And why wouldn't the Motherhood Center be something that is required for all new moms? Like, we go to school for all these different things, but we're just, you know, handed off with like that white, blue, and pink towel with this newborn and with no guidance. So, you know, that's what I would say, is that really, really just believe in yourself and know that you're a goddess and you're going to get through this.
So well said.
I wanted to add on to what Hetty said. The other thing about becoming a new mom or being mom now, there's no right or wrong. And I think one of the things that I struggled with, being as controlling and anxious as I am, is wanting to have a set of rules and to do it this way, cross it off the list, do it this way, cross it off the list. It's not like that. You don't, you know, get a set of rules and learn how to do it. You just do it. And nothing you're going to do is wrong. It's just going to build that experience and that journey toward motherhood. So don't stop and say, did I do it wrong? Because you didn't. You just did it, and now it's on to the next thing.
And can I just quickly say, please, it's important to forgive yourself, because when you go through PMAD, you have the worst thoughts. You really do. Towards yourself, towards the baby, towards the man who got you pregnant, who you want to strangle because you find yourself in this situation. And in all honesty, you're bearing the brunt of it. I mean, they're supportive, but you know, in your head, you're like, you're not even understanding half of what I'm going through. And once you see yourself through that journey, I feel like the button on that is to forgive yourself for all the stuff you thought about, for all the things you may have said or thought, because we forgive other people probably quite more easily than we forgive ourselves. And when we don't forgive ourselves, really that forgiveness for the other person really doesn't count for much. It starts with you. Charity begins at home, not to pull out an old cliche, but it is factual. So yes, please remember that you are human, you're not infallible, and there are many things that are going to happen that when you sit back and look at it, you think to yourself, what in the entire blip was I thinking or doing? Forgive yourself and remember that at the end of the day, you're human. Your God is human. Right, Hetty? Your God is human. So that's what I really wanted to say. And Abby, girl, we were in the same class, and I remember you, child.
I was just thinking, I haven't seen you.
You look great.
I showered. I mean, a few days ago, but I was not doing it when I came to the Motherhood Center.
It's all right. Only your baby smells you, child. The rest
Right,
of
I
us
smell a
don't
lot
care.
better than I did at the Motherhood Center. A few days is a short window. Sorry, guys.
I remember you that first day, girl. I thought to myself, well, girl, you ain't doing too bad. Good to see you, my love. Good to see you.
You too.
You ladies are so beyond inspirational, strong warriors to be here today and to share your stories and experiences. There is no question in my mind that you have impacted so many women by your strength and courage. This whole day has just been so amazing, and I feel so lucky to have shared it with all of you. I see Dr. Berndorf has joined us again. I know she's watching you all with pride.
Speechless, just speechless. You're beautiful, amazing women. You are so well. I've seen you on one end and the other. Oh my God. I have no words, just tears. It's amazing.
Well, we thank you all for your participation. We've reached the end of our event today, which will be available by the end of the week on our website. So thank you all a million times. Thanks for being here with us today. And I know we'll see you again soon. We're gonna get our ambassador program up and running after we get through this ridiculous pandemic, and we will. Thank you so
Thanks,
much, ladies. Lovely to see you.
Thank
Stay
you.
well.
Be well,
Bye.
ladies.
Be well.
Bye.
Well,
Woo!
that was a pretty amazing day. I kind of feel speechless that we were so privileged and lucky to be able to have so many amazing experts at the forefront of maternal mental health, and obstetrics and authors and survivors. It really is, it's been a spectacular day. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who participated. We were able to bring up some resources that are listed here for you on this final slide. You know, if anybody out there is struggling, please call us at the Motherhood Center. No matter where you are, we will help connect you to care. It's what we do. And as we started off by saying, everything that we do at the Motherhood Center is virtual now. Our day program that you just heard all of these amazingly strong women speak about in the final panel, they were all graduates of the day program. Individual therapy, medication management, support groups, webinars. We're really, really trying to meet every new and expecting mom where she's at so that we can help her get through this really challenging time.
Paige, I just want to say our phone number's wrong.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, it's 212-335-0034.
For everybody that's out there, that's supposed to be a 4, not a 5.
That's a 4, not a 5.
335-0034.
Oh, you got it. You know what? Because nothing's perfect. It can't be perfect, right? I love it. It's really, you know what? As everyone was saying on the last panel, we're all human. And it can't, even though it's a 5 instead of a 4, it can't take one moment away from how beautiful this day was. So thank you, and to Shannon and to Liz and to everyone who helped organize this. Absolutely amazing day, I think. And the panelists, I mean, I think I have to go take a nap. I'm going to crash after the adrenaline. It was really, really great. And if we've helped one person saved one life. I mean, it's all worth it. So please reach out. If you need any help, if you know anyone who needs any help, we are here. We are functioning fully virtually, all parts of our program, from support groups to outpatient therapies and medication management to our virtual day program, running strong. So please, please don't suffer silently. Reach out for help. We are here for you. Everyone at our virtual front desk, our beautiful care coordinators are there, and they'll talk to you. They'll help you figure out what's happening and get you to the right support. And if we don't happen to be it, we've got resources, Postpartum Support International. We've got the Resource Center of New York. We've got Mass General. There are places everywhere for help, and we will get you there. Okay, we will get you there.
And I see so many wonderful comments coming in as we close out, asking and suggesting that there be a motherhood center in every city and state and everywhere. And you are preaching to the choir, people. That is the dream of Dr. Berndorf and myself and the team at the Motherhood Center. We will get there. We will replicate this, and we will grow. And there will be a motherhood center coming soon near you.
In some way, shape, or form.
In some way, shape, or form. We recognize that there's an undeniable need, and it's our 100% intent to grow. So again, thank you, everybody. Again, 212-335-0034, not 5. You can also visit our website. And if anybody has any subsequent follow-up questions, whatever, please feel free to reach out. And we're going to close out for today. Thank you so much to everybody who joined. Have a great rest of the day.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.